Hello guys, and welcome back to the Box Show, episode 4, I believe we're on now. This week we're covering the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, the second annual Saudi Arabia Grand Prix held in Jeddah, and what a dramatic 10-15 laps it was. The last 10-15 laps were quite dramatic for the race, but we will get to that shortly. But before we do that, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you guys want to see more from me, or you guys want to check out more content from me, then please do subscribe to the channel. We're closing on 300 subscribers right now. I believe we're now on 287, so we're about 13 subscribers away from 13 subscribers away from 300. So if you guys like what I do, or if you guys want to see me do more of these or enjoy more content, then please do subscribe. It really means a lot to me. So let's talk about the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. It was the second time that F1 headed to Jeddah for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. It was the second annual, and before the Jeddah took place, we have to discuss the news prior to it, and that was that Aston Martin had confirmed that Sebastian Vettel did not return a negative COVID test, which meant he was also kept out of action for the second consecutive race in a row, which meant was set to deputise for the four-time world champion yet again. It looks very concerning for Aston Martin a minute with Vettel out for COVID. I believe he may return for Australia if he returns a negative test, and I believe he could at the time, which could potentially lead to Vettel's first race of the season, 3 races in. But at the minute, Aston Martin are very poor with the pace in the minute, so it's looking a bit worrying for the Silverstone team. As for the rest, AlphaTauri are looking strong than ever with Pierre Gasly. Let's start with practice. Practice did not offer much. There's not much to talk about the 3 practice sessions, other than a Ferrari dominance, with Charles Leclerc getting fastest laps in all 3 sessions and really cementing himself as a possible World Championship contender this season. So Leclerc's looking strong for Ferrari, as always, and Ferrari look very, very much back on the pace. As for the rest, Mercedes are looking very, very poor, as usual. This is quite shocking from Mercedes, to be honest. It doesn't look like they still fixed their porpoising, sandbagging issues from Bahrain last week, so it's looking very concerning for the Brackley team. Other than that, Red Bull looks strong. Verstappen is still gaining on Leclerc, trying to make an opener in the for the race, and we will get to that shortly. But not much to offer from practice apart from a few incidents and that. But yeah, let's move on to qualifying. Qualifying 1 took place first, and it was quite a shocker to see Hamilton, of all people, struggling with the Mercedes. Now, usually I'd be quite funny as in like, haha, Hamilton's out, but no, genuinely, I feel bad for him. I was quite shocked to see Hamilton in the bottom 5 and getting knocked out in Q1. It was the first Q1 knockout he had since Brazil 2017, the first on pure pace since Australia 2009. I believe it was, when Braun GP was dominating the season with Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello. But Mercedes are looking very, very poor with this, and it's not often you see a 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton, like this, the man who has the most wins in Formula 1, struggle like this. And it's looking very, very concerning for Toto Wolff and the gang to see Hamilton and even Russell struggling. Russell's even struggling in the Mercedes, which is quite usual for someone's first season in a car, because you get used to the technical settings of a different car to what you were used to the previous season. I know Russell was in Mercedes. I know he was deputising for Hamilton when Hamilton tested positive for COVID in 2020 when they were in Sakhir, the outer track of Bahrain. But that was just one race. Russell, ever since then, has been competing in Williams, and he's gotten used to the Williams settings more than the Mercedes. So it's looking very, very difficult for Russell and Hamilton at the moment. And Mercedes really need to get into gears with this, otherwise they're going to be struggling throughout the season, which will be the first time they've done that since possibly the 2011-2012 season, when they had Rosberg and Schumacher, which was quite lackluster for Mercedes, to be honest. Not that I'm saying anything bad about Rosberg or Schumacher, they're both talented drivers, but Mercedes were lacking in pace in those kind of years and weren't getting much wins as they are now, or the previous season. But it's looking very concerning for them. Let's move on to Q2, and Q2 was very, very shocking, to say the least. It showed us one of the most devastating crashes we've had in the season. 2 races in, and we've already had a devastating crash in the form of young German and Haas driver Mick Schumacher, who collided with the wall at quite a heavy speed, I must say. It was wonderful to see Schumacher okay, but this also proves to us that Jeddah could be a very dangerous track, which a lot of people also have that thought with. Not very much happened also in Q2. However, there were discussions before Q2 whether they were going to continue with qualifying or not, whether they were going to continue with the race in general or not, because of an incident that happened 10 kilometers from where the track was. I believe a missile strike at the Aramco headquarters, I believe. Some sort of political kind of civil kind of war they've got going on. I'm not entirely sure the full story. I'm not going to get full into details of the story himself, but it looks very, very concerning for Saudi Arabia and possibly Formula 1 in the future. But nothing very much happened in Q2 up until those incidents with the Civil War and Schumacher to begin with. Now we'll move on to Q3. Sergio Perez gets his first pole position for Red Bull, and Christian Horner is looking happy than ever. Charles Leclerc almost thought he had it up until he finished up P2 and Perez nicked the fastest lap from him. So it's Perez and Leclerc on the front row with Sainz and Verstappen lining up on the second row. I believe George Russell finished P5 in qualifying, and he would line up on the third row with, I believe, Valtteri Bottas. I'm not entirely sure, but Bottas is looking very strong in Alfa Romeo. He looks very comfortable in the new settings of Fred Vasseur because of the past, together in the developmental territories of Formula Racing. But qualifying looked very strong for Red Bull, and Perez gets his first pole position ever, to be honest. That's Perez's pole in Saudi Arabia was his very first pole position in Formula 1, and he's been here for the last 11 years. And his car is number 11. Coincidence? I think not. Now we move on to the race. Before we got on with the race, before the race began, we were given word from Gunther Steiner that Mick Schumacher would not compete in the race itself due to medical reasons and possibly a concussion that could have happened during the race. There were fears that Haas had not to field Mick Schumacher, so Kevin Magnussen would be the only Haas car that the American team would field. And also before lights out, we suffered another retirement in the form of Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri. Tsunoda reported power loss. His race engineer came up on the radio and said, "Yuki, that is us done for the night." And unfortunately, we suffered 2 losses before the race. Not much happened until lap 35 when Nicholas Latifi unfortunately crashes his Williams and is retiring. Then we suffered 3 other retirements in the form of Alfa Romeo's Valtteri Bottas, Alpine's Fernando Alonso, and McLaren's own Danny Ricciardo unfortunately suffers power loss, as well as Fernando Alonso, and Bottas is into the pits with an issue with his pit stop, I believe. Then we get on to the final stage of the race, and it's a very good, very close, very exciting battle between Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, the Red Bull versus the Ferrari. This is why I love Formula 1, because it's not always just Mercedes and Red Bull like it has been for the last 2-3 seasons. Ferrari's getting involved as well. Ferrari are looking very strong on their pace right now, and it looks certain that maybe Leclerc could finish as world champion, but he's going to give Verstappen a fight, and Verstappen's going to give him a fight for the title. Hamilton looks nowhere near at the minute. He looked very poor in Jeddah, as well as George Russell did. But no, it was a very good, very close battle between Verstappen and Leclerc, with Verstappen grabbing the win in Jeddah, overtaking Leclerc with 2-3 laps to go, and we get this very exciting cat and mouse chase between the Italian team and the English team. So hopefully we can see more in the future. I would love to see more battles like this in the future. It looks very exciting for the future of Formula 1. Now we go on to the questions. Now this is a a usual segment we have in our show where I go over the questions. However, I have come up with a name for this segment. We're going to call it Round the Outside, where I ask people what they thought about the race, or I let them ask questions about the race itself, so that they can offer their questions or whatever they'd like to ask about the race, and I'd let them my opinions and thoughts about the race in general. And I only got one question again this week. I'm not angry, I'm not disappointed, I'm glad this question is there, but I would love to see more in the future. I hope in the future we can have more questions. I hope more of you will get involved in the future. Hopefully we can have more questions on Australia in 2 weeks' time. But I only got one question for this week, and it comes from Dave Doherty, who asked me a question last week. He said, your thoughts on Leclerc's performance/race? I thought Leclerc had a very good race. I thought his pace and his race style in general was very much similar to Bahrain. The only difference is he grabbed the win in Bahrain. In Jeddah he didn't. However, it was a very good battle he had with Verstappen, and I thoroughly think that Leclerc will have a very good season and possibly clinch the world title should he give Verstappen a very good title race. But that is it for the Box show this week. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did like it, please smash the like button, and if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot to me. But no, until then guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Fergie TV, you guys have been my viewers, and I'll see you guys in the next video.